Yeah, finally.
I know.
Sound like
All right.
Oh,
How we doing? I'm just looking at you guys, just like, are we doing this?
This is the first I'm looking at us.
well, that was a mistake. I'm going to keep it in now because Jordan, you were just lost. You're like, bro, it's recording. Why?
Yeah, I was looking at
anything?
you like, are you gonna? Yeah.
It was like a full 5 seconds of just you looking at me going, any day now.
Any day now.
Is it happening?
Welcome to
God.
the Fantasy Foolz podcast.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, well, welcome into this madness, everybody. We are the Fantasy Fools. I am Tyler Scott, joined by Michael, Sean, and Jordan Patrick. And if you still stuck with us after that horrendous start to a show, then thank you.
Oh, thanks a lot. You're just basically giving everyone permission to shut this off. Stop it.
Well, I don't blame them after that fall. And I would say let's re-record, but we're committed. We're a minute in now.
You can't say we're not entertaining, Mike.
Oh, well, anyway, welcome in, fools. We are here again for our episode 12. Today, we are going to cover some Super Bowl recap. We had an exciting Super Bowl. Really want to jump into that for a few minutes and dive into what our thoughts were on that game. And then we're going to try something new. We thought it'd be cool to compare ADP draft rankings to where the players in those rankings actually fell by their position. So we're going to cover the top 25, or I'm sorry, the top 50. This week we're going to cover 50 through 25, and next week we'll bring it home with 24 through 1. And we're going to we're really the main reason I think this is really cool is just to show not always to trust ADP because things happen in the season, right?
Oh yeah. Things happen all the time throughout the season. It's just, one thing I've realized when we're going through this, there's some superstar talent that basically we were all just hands down, no question. Like if they don't finish in the top 2 or 3 of their position, then it's a failed season, right? And like all of a sudden you're seeing them just drop for sometimes no reason. Sometimes they just get hurt. You just got to realize that this is why that waivers are so important.
And it's actually interesting to compare final result of points versus their ADP, I think, because it shows you trends on where those players are drafted by position and what positions have the most competition in them. Like, for example, we're going to go over next week, but QBs, the number one rank, actual final ranks in QBs, it was all of them. It was like the top 8 QBs in the season were all in those highest point categories. And what it tells me is you don't have to draft a QB early because there's options. Unless everyone, you have to cut. And that's where we're going to talk about draft theory later, but that's where you got to really look at the data.
Unless you actually have one of the top flight guys, like, I mean, it really is insane just how different they really can be. But like, you also need to see the difference in points that you're getting. Like,
right.
Again, Josh Allen, it's no surprise to everybody. He finished he finishes the top guy. I ruined that one. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Guys. But like, it was hands down 35 points more than the next QB.
But even like Jalen Hurts and Jordan Love, 3rd and 4th, and Jalen Hurts beat Jordan Love by 19 points overall. Like it just shows like there's options, and it'll help. And we're going to get into a lot more at future episodes in the offseason, but it'll help you realize, hey, this is maybe where I should draft this position right now.
Absolutely. And this is exactly why they basically have these positional ranks too, because you want to make sure that you're getting the best players at each position. But if the position is flooded with points anyway, that's where you got to really just look at hey, is it actually worth it or not?
Right.
Absolutely. And we'll get there. Let's talk about the Super Bowl first, though. I'm sure everybody who's watching this definitely watched that. Man, but pretty good Super Bowl. I thought a really good defensive first half, and just Mahomes pulls the magic out again. And then Purdy just couldn't put it away. What'd you guys think?
Absolutely. I thought it was a great game. I thought the entire first half was super defensively focused. And quite frankly, I just loved that my numbers came up in the Super Bowl pool.
Must be nice. Must be nice. And I will say, I do think it was a great defensive game. I don't. I mean, you know me. I'm not a really big Mahomes fan. I don't think he did as much as he needed to. I think it was really the defense on both these teams that really did the work, as opposed to the quarterbacks. I think really it was the defense who really carried away these games to where it was.
I agree.
I can't disagree, but I will say this: like, Pat Mahomes did show up in the second half, and he did show up when it mattered because he was the driving force of that touchdown run to win the game. So, like, you can't say he wasn't a major part of this offense. I mean, he got the necessary touchdowns that they needed, and he got them at the right time. Honestly, it was the combo of him and Kelsey. And Kelsey came together again, like they do, like the script writers always want, right? That was it. And Taylor got to celebrate her Super Bowl win in 3 months of being a fan, which is just annoying.
Right. I thought it was a really good defensive game, which is why I was so surprised Kyle Shanahan is letting the defensive coordinator go. Like, Steve Wilkes got fired after the Super Bowl, and I was kind of like, I don't think the defense was the problem there, buddy.
Yeah, that was surprising, but I mean, he's going to get another job, like you guys are thinking. I mean, he's awesome.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny, too, because I know there's a lot of talk about penalties and the reffing in this game. And one of the things I found interesting, I was reading up on some articles, and it said the Chiefs haven't received a holding penalty in the past 3 Super Bowls. And I don't have the stat, but I'd be really curious to know how many holding calls the Chiefs received throughout the 2023 season. And just to see, like, you know, is it scripted? Is there some coercion going on?
Let's get to the bottom of why Tyler doesn't like Mahomes. It's because he has the potential to catch up in Super Bowl rings to Tyler's favorite player, Tom Brady. And I'd be interested to see how many holding calls have been called on the Patriots.
I mean, I agree
when Tom
with
Brady
this
was
argument.
playing that Super Bowl.
Oh, I agree with this argument wholeheartedly, Jordan, because quite frankly, it's the same exact argument that Tom Brady had. Tom Brady also had 3 Super Bowls, but guess what? I think by his third, if not his third, his 4th Super Bowl was also won by the defense. You're forgetting that too.
Listen, this is not a Tom Brady podcast.
Defenses that have ever been seen.
Is this a pick on Tyler? No, this is a pick on Mahomes podcast.
Always
no, it is
not.
Tyler.
You got
Mahomes is magic.
Two Mahomes lovers here.
You know, and I do want to bring up something else. And Mike, you touched on it, but those Super Bowl pools, I got to tell anyone who's listening, make sure you specify to your pool contributors whether you are going off of 4th quarter or final score. The amount of controversy I bet this shit causes is just wild. And this happened. When did this start? Wasn't the first overtime Super Bowl with the Patriots and the Falcons? Yeah,
Patriots Falcons.
And that was
an insane comeback.
Yeah, it was the first overtime, I believe, in the NFL in this NFL Super Bowl.
Correct. I believe you're right, because I think there's only been 2.
And this is the second. Yeah, you know, it's happened twice in the last 20 years. Guys, let's get our shit together.
Defenses, start letting in more points.
No, just specify. Is it 4th quarter or final score? And let your people know.
I got to be honest, I was kind of rooting for the 49ers in this one just because I wanted somebody different. I felt like Shanahan deserves one. I like Purdy and CMC. But now that the Chiefs won, I'm kind of rooting for the 3-peat.
No.
Oh, yeah.
I'm rooting
not at all,
man. Let's go Andy Reid. Let's go Mahomes. Let's go Kelsey.
Oh, God.
3 in a row. It's never been done. Not even
care.
Tom Brady.
I don't want it to be done.
Won 3 in a row, Tyler. That's why you don't want it to be done, because Tom Brady never did it.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Okay. But I'd be okay if Jared Goff did it. That'd be great. Let's go Lions.
That'd be legendary.
In all
Could
fairness,
you imagine?
Actually, I would love the Lions to win. I would love the Lions to win next year.
Yeah, Jordan.
Lions and like the Jets. Outside of them, it's like and Packers. Outside of them, it's like, all right, I could see the Chiefs winning again.
Yeah, Jordan. The air must be pretty tight up there on your high horse.
I want the Giants to win, but I don't think it's going to freaking happen. So let's go Chiefs.
The Giants aren't even going to win the draft somehow. They're going to mess this number 5 pick. They're going to somehow get someone who's going to end up busting.
They're actually, if you look at their draft capital spent in the past 5 years on offensive line, it's like significantly higher than any other team.
I know, they just keep
it's so
ruining their picks.
It's so bad.
No,
they
Giants
keep
are
ruining their picks.
The Giants are going to kill themselves by sticking with Danny DeVito.
Danny Dimes.
Him.
They have an escape hatch in the contract after this year.
Jordan, not Danny Dimes, Danny DeVito.
I mean,
and on that bombshell,
he didn't do that good either.
Yeah, that's my point. Oh my gosh, we just got to restart.
It all sucks. It all sucks.
Just we can move on.
Let's just re-record this. Gosh. All right, we're moving on to our next segment. My God,
are you actually going to hit this?
No. I have one thing to say. I have one thing to say.
You press this time,
Mike. Let me hear your point.
I just want to say that I was the only one to choose the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl.
Oh God,
it's true. It's true.
All right.
Now we can move on.
Moving on. We're going to just do a quick recap before we move on to the ADP rankings by position. We're going to talk about our Duel of the Fools segment and how we ended up. So just to give you guys a overview, we started Duel of the Fools in week 14. And it looks like I ended up last for correct guesses, and I blame our postseason for that. During the regular season, I was way ahead, hugely ahead. For Mike came in second with 26, and Jordan won because he chooses the right people and not by favorites like me.
Yep,
with 27. But going back to my point, weeks 1, I number 1 with 4 weeks winning. Mike and Jordan tied at 2 each, which is really sad for Mike because he won the first week of week 14 because no one else picked.
I know, but it's still a win.
Yeah,
wasn't there a few weeks that Mike and I just didn't even put it in, and that's part of why you won the week.
Jordan, you missed 14 and 15, so you might have had a chance. But
I know
you didn't.
I take the win because, quite frankly, I also told you guys multiple times as soon as I made it, hey, go in there, update this. It's right here. Nope, none of you updated it, and I was the only one who got it. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. Granted, I only won with 3 correct votes, so
yeah. But anyway, so Duel of the Fools. Not really. Duel of the Fools, we will bring that back when we get into the 2024 fantasy season. But for now, we are going to be retiring that segment as there is no football going on. Unless we do it off the XFL. Nah, we're not going to.
Which we are not. Let's move on.
Move on.
Let's move on to the top 50 here, okay? So this is, again, the redraft of what our top 50 ADPs would be. We're only going to cover 50 to 26 as far as rankings, but Tyler, let's lead the way here.
Yeah, so we're going on 50 to 26 this week. We're going to go 24 to 1 next week. At number 50, we had Cam Akers, who was the 50th average draft position for the 2023 season. He was ranked RB20 on the season, and when we look at how he ended,
he sucked.
He was bad. So
very bad.
Let's also preface this by when we went back and corrected these, we also just looked at the top 150 players in the fantasy performance on ESPN. And according to our list, when we looked out at the top 150 players, he was not on that list. So goes to show how bad he was, because I don't believe he was one of those guys. Did he get hurt as well, or was he just... He was hurt at. He was hurt when he went to the Vikings, right?
Yeah.
So again, he was unfortunately not the back that we expected in LA. And then when he went to the Vikings, he got his opportunity and tore another ACL. He's probably done for his career, to be honest.
Yeah. Next at ADP number 49, we have DJ Moore, who was ranked as the wide receiver number 20, but surprisingly enough, paired with Justin Fields, he did end up getting wide receiver 6 on the season, which is pretty above what I think people expected from him.
I think that goes to show how good of a player he is. I don't think that Justin Fields is going to continue to produce wide receiver 6 in fantasy points. I think it says DJ Moore is a great receiver.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting what Chicago does this year with their draft capital, right? I mean, are they going to go and get another QB? Are they going to use that number 1 pick? And are they going to end up going down? Regardless, they're probably getting another stud receiver.
Yeah.
Regardless, though, I'm looking to pick DJ Moore top 10 next year. Not top 5.
What if they go
10 of position?
Okay,
or
yes,
overall?
Position.
Jordan, then I'm just going to ask this right now. Theoretically, what happens if they end up taking their number 1 pick and their number 8 pick right now, and they say, we're going to get a new QB who's a rookie, and then they're going to also use that number 8 pick for probably Neighbors? What if they end up getting another top flight wide receiver prospect?
I still think DJ Moore will produce.
I agree. I agree with Jordan. Maybe. I would probably pick DJ Moore, even with the rookie quarterback. No, if they've
quarterback, exactly.
Then I would say no, probably not top 10. But if they stick with Justin Fields, and even if they draft another wide receiver, I would pick DJ Moore top 10, because as long as he's their quarterback, Justin Fields is their quarterback, I would say he's still going to produce.
I 100% agree with that. If Justin Fields is still there, then yes, DJ Moore is absolutely still a top flight wide receiver.
I mean, but talking about rookie quarterbacks, I mean, let's look at CJ Stroud. What if Caleb Williams comes in? I mean, Nico Collins was a top 10.
I think if we're talking CJ Stroud, then we got to also talk Bryce Young. I mean, you're talking about literally the best performance we've ever had versus the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
Who was a bust.
I don't really like rookie quarterbacks in any leagues or any seasons. You don't know what you're going to get. And I think CJ Stroud was an outlier. It's
definitely an outlier.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the best fantasy rookie quarterback that we've seen.
Yeah, not to get into a rabbit hole or anything on the QB subject, but you look at the QBs, the rookie QBs who have started over the last 5 years, who didn't sit their first year. You've looked how they've done. I don't trust them. I mean, literally, CJ Stroud was the only rookie who really showed up in the past. Since Mahomes was benched his first year, so
Mahomes
in a long while, right?
Yeah,
we're seeing.
Yeah, Joe Burrow got hurt his first year.
Maybe Baker, because Baker's first season looked really good. But you're going back.
Josh Allen was decent his first year, but he's gotten better each year.
He's gotten better each year, exactly.
Right.
I mean, Josh Allen was a turnover machine, and he wasn't quite getting the touchdowns.
If you're looking at Joe Burrow, because he only played 3 or 4 games his rookie year.
But exactly why I left him off. I left him off because Joe Burrow, he looked good, but he got that bad leg injury.
Yeah.
Out for the rest of the season, and that was when they ended up doing poorly again, and they got him Jamar Chase after that.
Yep.
Right.
Moving on to ADP number 48, we've got J.K. Dobbins, who tore his ACL early in the season. He was supposed to be drafted around RB19. He didn't even make the top 150 list. Justin Fields, this is a guy we've been talking about, drafted at rank number 47. QB7 was where you were supposed to take him, and he ended up at QB19. I think he was one of the most disappointments because he played quite a number. I think he played the whole season. I don't think he was injured much, and he ended up just totally shit in the bed.
Yeah,
Mike, I want to hear your thoughts on this. Yeah, you said he used his feet a lot last year, right? Do you know where he ended up last year? Was he higher than 19?
Yes.
Last year he was QB7. This year, he fell all the way to 19 in our league.
Jeez.
But here's the thing: last year he had over 1,000 yards rushing.
How many did he have this year?
657. But I do want to say this: I actually forgot this, but he was out for 4 weeks in the middle of the season, between weeks 7 to 10.
Okay, so I forgot about that.
Maybe that makes a little bit more sense. But you're still talking. He was on pace for over 1,000 yards rushing. No, a little under. I'm sorry, a little under. But he was still on pace for 900 yards rushing.
I'd be curious to see DJ Moore stats from week 7 to 10 and what percentage of his fantasy points that put him in the top 6, position 6, came when Fields wasn't playing.
Do you want to know? Those were some of his worst weeks.
Yeah. Interesting. I think that's noteworthy.
That's incredibly noteworthy. That's why I'm saying that I would actually stick with DJ Moore if Fields is there.
Oh, okay. I see where you're going with that. All right.
I see. You trust him less if Williams is there.
That's going down a rabbit hole that I don't want to get into on this pod. That's going to be future episodes. But yes, 100%.
So next player.
Another quarterback whose ADP was 46. He was ranked QB6 at the start of the season. We have Justin Herbert, who ended up as QB 17. I think it's another one. He was hurt. He missed 4 games. Well, 3 games. 4 games.
He missed 4 games, and then was also hurt in week 15. Right. So I'm sorry, 14. So he
14.
really actually missed 5 games pretty much.
Yeah,
And
he definitely. You definitely got your money's worth for those first 14 weeks, but obviously
didn't help you in the playoffs.
No,
Nope.
it didn't.
I'm picking him next year though. New coach Jim Harbaugh's coming in. Like he's going to be top 5 next year as long as he's healthy. Probably top 3.
Yep. At 45, we've got TJ Hawkinson, tight end for the Minnesota Vikings. Rank was 45. He was ranked as a tight end 3 and ended the season as tight end 4. So, and I want to make a point before we dive into him. This is where you have to marry some of this data and information you're getting going into these drafts. ADP is not the end-all, be-all. ADP is just a stat. People get injured. Things happen. So you don't always have to rely on 100% on this. In this case, TJ Hawkinson aligned with probably where you thought he was. But look at Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, all those guys. Use this data, but don't rely on it.
The amazing part about TJ Hawkinson to me is that he finished right around where he was supposed to, right? You just said he was drafted right around tight end 3. He finished the season tight end 4, but he finished the season with tight end 4 after getting hurt and missing like
Absolutely.
2 games.
Yeah.
He missed 2 games.
And correct me if I'm wrong. Not only that, he continued to play well after Kirk went down. Like he was number 1, on his way to number 1 for the season before he got hurt.
Well, he only missed 2 games, so like I don't know if he's well on his way, but like he ended up still getting hurt and missed those 2 games, and he's missing his top QB. I mean, the top QB. Kirk Cousins was a major loss for them in like week 8 or something like that, and then that was when his downfall started happening when they lost Kirk Cousins, which is another whole point about like these receivers. Not only do the receivers rely on themselves being healthy, but they also do rely on their quarterback. So it's something to be mindful of. When you lose a quarterback, it affects the rest of the field.
Absolutely.
You got to play that game of who are those vulnerable quarterbacks who get injured a lot.
Who's got the bad offensive line?
Yeah. Who are their weapons? And you have to use that information because you might have a superstar, but if you don't have a quarterback behind him, you're not going to do much. You know what I mean? And it's just all those variables. You might, look at Justin Jefferson. Next year, he might not have Kirk Cousins. He might have a terrible quarterback. You're not going to draft him as high.
Right. Absolutely.
But moving on to number 44, we've got Keenan Allen, who was ranked wide receiver 19 at the start of the season, and he ended up wide receiver 8. This is a little bit of a surprise given, the Chargers' offense this season and how they just couldn't win a game.
Yeah.
It's Keenan Allen has shown that he's another guy. He's another one of those players, so like a Larry Fitzgerald, who just seems to just still do well into his 30s. I mean, like he's 31 years old right now, and I'm still not worried about his age 32 season. He's tied to Justin Herbert. He's got just amazing. He got amazing athleticism, and he's the number 1 look. I mean, I still just think he's their number 1 pick for Quentin Johnston. That didn't seem to work out so far.
Right.
So he's going to still be looking to be that guy.
My one concern,
he missed 4 games too at the end of the season.
Yeah. My one concern with Keenan Allen is he seems to miss at least 1 game every season. But also, if Mike Williams leaves the Chargers, like you said, Quentin Johnson is not good enough to be wide receiver 2. So unless somebody else gets drafted or they sign somebody else, aren't you I'm a little worried about how old he is being wide receiver number 1 without Mike Williams on the other side of the field distracting the defense.
You are correct. I would be a little worried about that as well, but we'll
see what free agency holds for Mike Williams.
Yeah. Number 43 in ADP was Dameon Pierce, ranked at RB 18 at the beginning of the season. He didn't even make the list, and I think anyone who paid that draft capital for him regretted it.
Yep.
Oh yeah. He really was going into the season. He was the only Texan being drafted, and he's the only one who hurt everybody.
Yep. Calvin Ridley at number 42. Started the season was wide receiver 18. Ended the season wide receiver 17. So I think overall you got what you wanted for him where you got him.
I was happy with him on my team.
He was a
good
player, but he was a good player.
Yeah, he was like one of those weekly streamers of, and it was hard because you had all these Jacksonville Jaguar players around him, Travis Etienne, Christian Kirk, but Calvin Ridley he ended up showing up, but also, like you said, Mike, he was usually a weekly boom or bust. He either got you points or nothing.
Absolutely.
Want to know what I would say Calvin Ridley was this season? Calvin Ridley was a more successful, better, more consistent Gabe Davis.
Yeah. Gabe sucks.
Yeah. So
it's number 13 who shall not be named, isn't it?
See, I was going to say that and I forgot his number. That's how irrelevant he is.
Gosh, you guys hate Gabe Davis.
He's awful. I will never draft him again.
He is a fantasy roster killer.
All right.
Moving on to, we've got number 41, Aaron Jones. Started the season running back 17, ended as RB 37 on the 41st ADP pick. You definitely didn't get what you wanted, but in the playoffs you did.
Yeah, he played well in the playoffs. It was disappointing he got hurt. That's really what it comes down to for why he didn't finish around his ADP.
He actually performed in the games he played in, which was so upsetting. Like the first game of the season, when he got that hamstring injury, he put up 25.7 points.
Yeah.
He had like 2 touchdowns.
Didn't he have like 4 games against the Cowboys? Or how many touchdowns against the Cowboys?
That was in the playoffs. That was postseason, yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, he was still showing that he's a high part of that offense, but injury killed his draft position. And
I think his age is starting to hurt him too.
He's getting older, but I'm hoping he's got one more year.
Yeah. And
he could be one of
those. Didn't step up as much as I expected him to this season.
Yeah, I agree with that.
He could be one of those veteran sleepers that you could pick later on next year, and he might show up.
Aaron Jones, absolutely.
Yeah, but number 40, we've got Jahmyr Gibbs, ranked at RB 16 at the start of the season, ended up RB 10. One of those rookie performances that started off slow, but then ended up becoming a crucial part of this Detroit Lions offense.
I love this kid. This kid is
Gibbs.
So good, so electric, so dynamic, so shifty, and he can still break some tackles. This kid is the real deal. And if you've been listening to this podcast, you'll know I speak highly of him every single time. He finished RB 10 and he missed 2 games. I mean, he's a superstar in the making.
Where are you guys drafting him next year? Are you drafting?
I was just going to say
top 3 RB, top 5, top 10.
I think top 5
RB easy.
Top 5 RB, I would say.
Top 5.
Okay.
I might pick him late first round, early second round.
I'm fringe first round, early second round for sure. If he drops me in the mid second round, I'm happy. I'm happy taking him.
Yeah, absolutely. Late first round to early to mid second round. Not only that, keep in mind how well they played this season. It's going to be his second year, which statistically is the best year for running backs, fantasy wise. And then on top of that, Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell, the whole offensive staff is staying in Detroit. That makes a huge difference in his development.
Huge. And also, let's say this. Let's throw something else out there, right? There's always a couple rookies usually that are rookie optimism, right? People who everybody's like, oh, you know what? This kid's really good coming out of college. He had a great year, and he went to a good team. So I think he's going to be a top 5. He's going to be the next Saquon Barkley. He's going to be the next Bijan Robinson. Well, this year, it's a very poor running back class. There's not going to be any rookie optimism for anyone coming in this year.
So would you all QBs this year?
Would you guys draft Jahmyr Gibbs with your first pick?
Not if I'm in the top 5 or 6 picks of the draft in the second half of round 1. Like if I'm pick 10, I'm happy.
Right, that's what I mean. Like, would you use a first pick if you were pick number 12, pick number 10, 11, 9, 8?
Yes.
Where would you put him against others? Would you put him at 8, 7?
I would. I probably wouldn't, to be honest, because I'm always skeptical of drafting a running back first round because I usually want to get one of those top flight wide receivers. But if he was at 12, I'd consider it.
Yeah, because then you got 12 and first.
To be honest with you, I'm probably looking for him around 15.
15, okay. Going into Amari Cooper at 39, wide receiver 17 at the beginning of the season, ended wide receiver 18, right where you wanted him.
Right where you want him.
Joe Burrow at 38, ranked QB5, ended QB25. Obviously, plagued by injury this year.
Yeah. That was just unfortunate for Burrow. I mean, he didn't even make it out of training camp before that calf injury, and that calf injury ruined the Bengals. It didn't ruin him; it ruined the Bengals.
Oh yeah,
it hurt that team. They, coming off of last year's performance to now this year, it was definitely a huge impact that resonated among the team. Even with Jake Browning taking over, who didn't do terrible, but he's no Joe Burrow. Moving on to Jonathan Taylor, RB at ADP 37. He was ranked RB 15 at the start of the season, ended up RB 33, mostly because of contract issues and I don't know, would you call it injury adjacent?
Yeah.
He missed 3 games from weeks 13 to 15. And he also missed the first 4 weeks of the season because of the contract issues. And on top of that, when he came back, he had 2 games of reacclimating himself to the team. Zach Moss was still very relevant in weeks 5 and 6. So I would actually say that he had a pretty successful season, being still playable and missing more or less half the season.
Yeah.
But
here's my prediction for him. Next season, he's going to come back. He's full contract. But, between him and Zach Moss, I think it's going to turn into the Pittsburgh Steelers, where like Najee Harris, he's RB 20 now. I think that's where Jonathan Taylor's going to fall next year, especially if Zach Moss is eating as much of the backfield shares as he was this season.
Zach Moss is up for contract.
He's
though.
up for a contract.
Yeah,
he might be able to get a starting job.
Right. And I will say this. I think of something that I learned, because I did draft Jonathan Taylor earlier on in the 2023 draft. One thing I did learn is don't draft injured players. It's not good that high, because you lose the first 3 weeks. You're almost going to lose automatically, because you're losing that draft capital you spent. And now you have to pick someone up off the waivers, or, it just shifts your whole gameplay. And I don't know if you guys agree, but it's something that I'm looking at more in depth, because I had Cooper Kupp and Jonathan Taylor.
You got double whammy. Like I will say you
did it
really
to yourself.
Had it. No, he didn't though, because I'm pretty sure we had our draft before Cooper Kupp got injured.
Correct.
And I know I did the same thing.
Right.
I picked up Cooper Kupp, and the next day he had his injury. I was like, oh my god, I lost my number 5 overall pick. So I don't blame you, and you really got hampered by it. If you have a guy like someone else coming up in later in the draft, I want to say, I think proves you wrong in that category.
Yeah, we'll see. But going into 36, we've got Lamar Jackson, ranked QB4. Ended up at the season as QB5. I really wish he didn't get the MVP. I think he did not deserve it.
He had a great season.
Me. Yeah, okay. You had a...
I just wish it wasn't just guaranteed to go to a quarterback. McCaffrey was awesome this year, and I think it would have been really nice to see him.
I think it should have been McCaffrey. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think there are much better, most valuable players than Lamar Jackson, in my opinion. But
you also could have argued Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill. You could have Christian. Yeah. You could have argued. Look, and I know this sounds a little far fetched, but you could have argued Sam Laporta, being a rookie, redefining tight ends. He had one of the best rookie season of a tight end. He came up best tight end of the season. I mean, it's those kind of things that
he came up the best tight end of the season in a rookie fantasy draft in a fantasy format, sure, but like he's not MVP. He didn't even win offensive player of the year or offensive rookie of the year.
Yeah, you can't really go off fantasy points.
Right. At number 35, we've got Breece Hall, ranked RB14 at the beginning of the season. Ended up RB4.
Stud.
Yeah, I definitely think this guy is higher on my draft chart for next year than I gave him credit for this year.
Yeah.
Breece Hall showed everybody that you can come back from injuries and still be super great. He was incredible.
Yeah, he really was incredible. Mike, you had mentioned before how poorly the Giants have drafted some players. Kudos to the Jets for drafting both Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall, because I think, if you remember last year, Breece Hall was on his way to potentially be Offensive Rookie of the Year instead of Garrett Wilson.
Yeah.
He got hurt.
When he got hurt, it was like game 7 or game 8, and I mean, when he went down, it changed the entire offense. He was so elusive. He was every part of that offense, and like when they went down, they were lost.
So where are you guys picking Breece Hall? Same thing we did with Gibbs.
No, he's bet. I put him over Gibbs.
You put him over Gibbs?
100%. He's so good.
Tyler? That's a yes. You don't want to say it because he's a lion, but that's a yes.
I honestly, I don't know. Because Gibbs has the benefit of having such a great receiving game. And yes, Breece Hall is a pass-catching running back. But there's so much uncertainty about how Aaron Rodgers is going to perform. Who's their backup? That's where I worry. Jared Goff has shown that Jahmyr Gibbs could have trended to be a top 3 running back.
Absolutely. But
that's you
have to also realize he is tied with David Montgomery. David Montgomery is still there.
Correct.
So it is literally Breece Hall. Breece Hall is it. As of this recording right now, before the draft, it is Breece Hall, and there are no other running backs that are really capable of handling the Jets. And yes, they're going to be a much more passing offense next year, sure. But he is just as involved in the passing game as he is the run game. And he's got I think Gibbs is a better, more elusive, more electric player. I think he can move faster. No, I don't know about faster. I don't know speeds. But I do think he's more athletic, and I think he has a lot more shiftiness. But Breece Hall is right there, too. He's still so good. I just think Breece Hall is a better fantasy player.
We'll see. I'm with Tyler on this one. I'm very curious to see what the passing offense is going to look like. You got to look at the fact that they had such bad quarterback play.
Yeah,
like their main thing was like, we don't have a choice but to be a running team. Thank God we have Breece. So and it's not going to be that way next year.
And you're right. And there's a lot of these stats for Breece Hall might be inflated given the fact that the quarterback play was so bad and they just kept dumping it off to him. I'm not blind to that fact. Like, he probably got more touches than he even wanted, or they even wanted. He just kept getting the ball thrown his way because they had nowhere else to go. But I still think the talent will be there. And if they improve their offensive line like they are expected to, he's going to have bigger holes to run through.
Yeah, going on to number 34, we've got DK Metcalf, wide receiver 16 at the beginning of the season, end of the season, wide receiver 16. So ADP got it right that time. He's going to be your consistently 10 points per game kind of guy with a week or two with a huge boom week. But number 33, we had Deebo Samuel, wide receiver 15 at the start of the season, ended wide receiver 12. I think him and Purdy are building that connection. Yeah. Good to see him.
Missed games too.
Yes, he did.
I'm curious what's going to happen with Ayuk, but he might be the guy if Ayuk goes somewhere else.
Yep. At number 32, we've got Kenneth Walker, beginning of the season, RB13, ended RB19. But again, it goes down to this thing we've been talking about all day. We're all recording is injury. Injury takes these guys out.
Yeah.
Number 31, we had Joe Mixon, who started RB12 and ended RB5. This one I was surprised about because I have never been a Mixon fan nor a believer.
I loved this because I actually went into this season in another league of mine with some other friends, and they basically said, they ridiculed me. I picked Mixon in the late second round because I'm like, I really want him. It's a full PPR league, and I was ridiculed. Everyone was like, what are you doing? He's not even going to play this year, and he's like getting older. I'm like, I believe he's going to be a top 5 guy. So seeing him come here and be that RB5, I'm through the moon right now.
Yeah, I didn't expect that from Mixon either, Tyler. I was with you. I think Burrow, of course, Burrow, if he stays healthy next season and everything, I think where do you put Mixon? Where do you expect him? Top 10? I don't expect him top 5 again.
No. I think next year at age 28 season, pass catchers back. I mean, we got to see what happens with T. Higgins. Are they going to end up getting another wide receiver?
Yep.
I do think he's going to take a step back.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not a Mixon believer. I don't think I'm going to draft him very highly next year. But I never have. That's, he's one of those.
If he falls to 12, you take. If he fall, no, I'm sorry, like running back 12. Like it, would you take him right around the say third round? Would you take him in the third round?
If that's the trend of the draft and it's RB12 at that time, yeah.
Yeah, maybe not.
So
I'm trying to think who else would be in that third round running. Because it depends on who I drafted, right? But so again, yes, I think the answer is yes, depending on situation. Obviously.
I think you're going to be looking for him in the mid to late third round if he's available.
Correct.
I think he's going to be a good pick. At that point, he's going to have value.
I think at the fourth or fifth, he's a steal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Going on to number 30, ADP 30, we've got Mark Andrews, tight end number 2 at the beginning, and ended up tight end 13, and it's because he was hurt.
Yeah.
Yep, can't really do anything about that. Moving on to number 29, we have another guy on the Cincinnati Bengals,
This one
Higgins.
was sad.
Wide receiver 14 at the beginning, wide receiver 49 finishing the season.
Not a good way to end.
Going into a contract year, he needed a good season.
Now, granted, he did miss, he did miss 4 games, but he only showed up in really 3 of the others. He had a lot of bust games.
He did.
I have a hard time looking at him though, because like he did have some good games, and quite frankly, the reason that the Bengals were in the playoff hunt at the end of the season was because of his 2 touchdown performance when he ended up that one catch he had at the goal line where he basically caught the ball on a contested catch on the 1 yard line and had the smarts, had the intelligence to catch the ball, know where he is, get his 2 feet in, and then turn around the defender as he's pushing him outside of bounds to then cross the goal line and get the touchdown in like the fourth quarter. It was an incredible play. Look at the highlight if you can't think of it. But like it just showed that he had the physical talent and the smarts that you want in a wide receiver.
Yeah, I think there's 2 sides here to his story. And the thing that I always look at volume. How much volume are players getting? The problem with him is he doesn't get volume. Most games he had 2 receptions, 8, 3, 2, 4, 5, 1. He's got low volume, but the only thing, his reassuring value is that he does have a lot of area or yards per reception. That's his only redeeming quality. But I would say next season, I don't know if he's going to be my wide receiver 14, maybe. But
I mean,
I'm with you, Tyler. I look at volume, and he does get a lot of deep passes, which helps negate the fact that his volume's not so high. So yeah, that's a great point. But yeah, I'm very curious what's going to happen. I'm curious to see what his volume was like when Burrow was there. So
that's what I'm looking at, right? I mean, so you're talking this year was maybe a little lost. He had some injuries and Burrow got injured. So this year was definitely a down year for him. But 2022, you're talking about like 5, 6, 2, 7 receptions, 6 receptions, 5 receptions. 3, 7, 9, 7. Like,
yeah, definitely.
It was just a down year for him.
I agree. Yeah. But is it going to be a down year next year? Who knows?
If they franchise tag him and have a healthy Burrow, I think
he'll have a great year.
Yes.
Going on to number 28, we've got Devonta Smith, wide receiver 13 at the beginning, ended wide receiver 20. I'll be honest with you guys. I'm not super hopeful for any of these Philadelphia Eagle wide receivers.
Thank you. I'm with you. I'm actually very nervous about the Philadelphia Eagles as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, I was big on Devonta Smith going into the season because I thought he was one of those wide receiver 2s like Brandon Ayuk, Devonta Smith, those guys that like are really good number 2s. And they get a lot of attention because they have an A.J. Brown on their team that causes all the defense's attention to go to them, so they're able to get like good volume, But I don't see that trend continuing. It was there last year for A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. Both of them had a great season. This year, both of them down season, and I expect that to continue.
I agree. I think the entire offense is going to be looking way different. I mean, Jason Kelce, if he does retire officially, then they're going to have to find that hole to plug. Their offensive line has been their key. And, I mean, if anything, we saw in the skills competition at the
oh, God.
Yeah, you know where I'm going with this. We saw at the skills competition that maybe Jalen Hurts isn't quite the best pass catcher, the best passer as far as accuracy is concerned. And
did we ever think he
pass
was
the ball more and the tush push is gone? Might be a whole different offense.
I never thought he was that good of a passer.
Me neither.
I never thought of him as great. He was never an Aaron Rodgers. He was never anyone like C.J. Stroud is showing to be. But like he was being talked about much more highly going into his second and third season from A.J. Brown, from the receivers that he was working with. They said his accuracy has really improved. So, I mean, maybe I was a believer. Maybe I was. I'll admit I may have been a believer because I have him in a dynasty league. So I was excited.
My opinion is he's a good quarterback that was on one of the best built teams that we have seen in a long time. That Eagles team was stacked from top to bottom. They had people on the bench that would be on starters on other teams.
Yeah. Moving on to number 27, we've got Ramondre Stevenson. Started the season RB11, ended RB36. He did have some injuries throughout the season. But also, it's
his fault Bill got fired.
But I will say again, we talk about QB and just how important a good, healthy QB is, and Ramondre Stevenson didn't have one. And that's a big reason what put him at 36. He's a huge pass-catching runner and just didn't have that support. Going on to number 26, we've got Christopher Olave, wide receiver 12 at the beginning, ended wide receiver 19. Do we think he's still a wide receiver 12?
I think this is a good player to kind of look at. I do believe he can perform better than his ADP right here. I think the talent is there. Is the quarterback there? That's the big question.
Well, I don't. So personally, I think he's still top 12. Reason being is because, Saints is just bringing in a new offensive coordinator going into the season, so we'll see how that goes. But Derek Carr, I don't know about the stats on this season, but last season was top 3 in air yards per pass as a quarterback. Then Chris Olave was top 3 in air yards per pass as a receiver. So I feel like maybe another off season together, they're really going to start to click. Derek Carr likes to throw it deep. Chris Olave likes to receive it deep.
But you know what? They had a quarrel or something. Like it was highly publicized that they were not getting along, and that was possibly why he wasn't getting the ball thrown his way. I don't know that. I'm obviously not in the locker room, but like,
you're not?
I'm not. Shockingly, I know. I was hoping for it.
Never got the call. I looked for you.
Well, you should have looked for Chris Olave, apparently.
Yeah, you know what though, Mike? I don't believe in Derek Carr. I never have. If he's still their quarterback, I don't think I'm going to put Chris Olave as wide receiver 12. I think he's going to, for me, go later, a little bit later in the draft. I just don't think Derek Carr is going to support him the way he needs. I don't think he's a great quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think he's the average Joe quarterback that you can have, and he can lead your team to maybe the playoffs. He's never going to win you a Super Bowl.
Right.
I'll say this, with Chris Olave's fantasy value, honestly, after this year, I'd be hesitant to make him my wide receiver 2. Unless I had a really good target for the next round to be my wide receiver 3 who might step up and take over. I don't trust him as a wide receiver 2.
I would probably still wide receiver 2 him, maybe more into that flex category.
If you have him as a wide receiver 3, you have a stacked wide receiver core.
Yeah,
I think he has to be that wide receiver 2 for you, and you're kind of taking the gamble. You are taking the gamble.
That's the thing. It's a gamble with him, but you got to get him as a wide receiver 2. Yeah.
He's going to be drafted as a wide receiver 2 for somebody.
All right, here we go. Before we end, Chris Olave next season or DK Metcalf?
DK.
I'm going to go Chris Olave. I just don't. DK Metcalf has proven me wrong time and time and time again on this pod, but I like Chris Olave's talent better, and I don't like the wide receiver core that's currently in Seattle. There's too many people.
I might go DK.
You don't think JSN's going to get better? You don't think JSN's going to see more next year?
I do, but DK's young still, and we'll see. I think
new coach, new quarterback, possibly. We don't know anything about the next year's.
You know what it is?
Seahawks. No, we do know actually. Gino's going to be there.
He is? They came out and said they're sticking with him?
They're keeping him on the roster. So at the end of, I think on Friday, his $12.7 million for another season got like locked in on the contract. So I'm like 99% sure he's locked in to be on their roster next year.
Okay.
And
all right.
One final point about that is DK's going to always get you 10 points. Olave is not.
He's
I'd rather
consistent.
have the consistency than those boom busts because, yes, the boom is nice, but the bust is what loses you weeks.
Okay. Now that we did a wide receiver one last one. Joe Mixon or Aaron Jones?
Joe Mixon.
Joe Mixon.
Yeah?
Joe Mixon.
Yeah.
Oh, I answered that too quick.
I did.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be easy too, and then I thought about it.
Aaron Jones?
Aaron Jones.
Joe Mixon.
All right, J.K. Dobbins or Cam Akers?
No, I'm actually going to switch to Aaron Jones. I'm going to switch to Aaron Jones, and I'll stick with Aaron Jones for both of those options.
All right.
Why Aaron Jones? You just think
because
good?
The Green Bay Packers are building something, and they're building something with
maybe that's
a lot of young talent, and they have I think they still have a good O-line. It's going to be a good team next year, and I want to see a good player on a good team. And I don't necessarily I don't know if I could say the same right now for Joe Mixon. Like, we don't know. Like,
we'll see.
Joe Mixon's contract's coming in. They might lose T. Higgins still. Like, we don't know what they're looking like. Their offensive line was not that good. We just don't know what he's going to look like.
Yeah. But, that ends episode 12 of the Fantasy Fools podcast. We will be back next week, I believe, on Wednesday.
Yep.
So we'll be getting another episode out Thursday, and we're going to go through the ADPs 1 through 25 on next week's episode and just continue this out. In the meantime, we will see you later, and have a great day. Without football,
Unfortunately.
look out